Hey there. Good afternoon. This is Bev. This is the Bev D Show. I'm not sure if my intro music was really ready for me to click, but hey, we all have our days. But welcome. I'm very excited. This is a very off time, 3:52 Eastern Standard Time, to jump on here and announce some very exciting news. First of all, I have a very upset stomach, and not in a bad way. It's like before you give a speech, or before you go on your first day of work, or maybe a first date. It's just complete butterflies, because my new book, Fix It Rod, which is a wonderful children's story, is here. I did it. I can't believe it. So people will be able to order, and I'm very excited about that. Very excited to start promoting and getting it out there in the masses. And why do I want to do that? Because I think it's a damn good story. And it is something that I finally can read without getting choked up over the fact that these words came together one day many years ago. I was telling my printer that it's about 20 years, and I've had it tucked away and, thought and dreamed of how it could get out there. And, sometimes you just have to do it. You have to go for it. You have to make an effort and get scared and sick like I did. And I mean that. It's the most wonderful nausea in the world. It's just crazy. But I'm very excited, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it, and, some of the remarkable things that happen. We run into people and we talk to people, every day. If you're out in the workplace and or out shopping or whatever, we exchange smiles and glances, and the human effect is alive and well and working. And a lot of that we take for granted. We're not really listening or having our eyes wide open to realize some of the situations that honestly, could be something that we learn from. So today, when my printer called me and, she left a message, she was so excited, the book was done. I called her back, and she says, I got to tell you something. Today, when I was kind of boxing up your books, one of her oldest customers, and by oldest is doing business with them for several years, but he is also whip smart 90-something-year-old man. He's an engineer. Obviously, it sounds like it in his 90s that he's retired, but he was in there for one of his projects that he was working on. And he said, what are you doing over there? And she says, oh, I'm just boxing up, a project. It's a local author right here in town. And she chose us to be the printer. And she is publishing this book. And he said, can I look at it? And she said, well, certainly. I thought you wouldn't mind. And wait a second. There's something. Hang on. Okay, it was a hair. I'm sorry. It was like brushing in my face. I couldn't go on because it was kind of tickling. Anyways, I digress. So she says, she gives him the book, and she said he sat down, and she said he read every page. And she said she saw smiles and thoughtfulness and everything. And when he was done, he said, who is this again? And she said, she's a local author. And she has, she's publishing this book. And he said, this is one of the best stories I've ever read. And I start on the phone, of course, if you know me from any previous episodes, I started crying. And she said, I said, I appreciate that you liked it because, I'm a client. Of course, you're going to say it's cute or good or whatever. I appreciate that you said the staff thought it was adorable. But a stranger, somebody, more than family, more than, people that you work with or whatever. And she said he was genuinely excited about this book. And that meant the world to me. That was a day maker. I hadn't seen I saw proofs and everything, but I hadn't seen the finished product and the actual true paper they were going to be using. And let me explain. It is a simple book. It's a 32-page children's book, but it is something that adults would love to read to their kids. It is a book that adults can relate to as well as children. And when I wrote it many years ago, it was inspired by, it's called Fix It Rod, and it was inspired by the kids that all went to school, and I was married at the time, husband, and went to work, and I was sitting there, and I could hear all these noises in the house. And just little ones, like our refrigerator used to make funny noises. We had a pesky little toilet that often didn't want to behave, and it would make that little, like over how it keeps running, and all you have to do is just shake the handle on it. It needed fixed. And there were just these little noises. We had a rocker, and it was noisy. And when, it kind of creaked and screeched. And all these noises came to be. And they all came together all at once. And I just started writing. And the book itself starts out, mentioning that. I had no idea where it would lead or whatever. But the first lines in the book are, the rocker, it squeaked. The car, it clunked. And that's true. Our car had, I think it was bearings. And when you rode it kind of went clunk, clunk. And it was desperately needing fixed. But the car, it clunked. The television sparked. And the fridge had a special rattle all of its own. And if you look at my original writing, which was pencil and paper, it almost is exactly the way I wrote it in pencil without many edits. And I remember being at the end of it and going, it's kind of one of those moments where you're like, wow, where did that come from? And it was really rewarding. I typed it up. My kids were little at the time. And what I would do is I would present, just this typed out Word document to the principal at the school, the librarian, and their guidance counselor, so that I could get some off the cuff, educated responses. Hey, be honest with me. Tell me what you think about this. And I have a couple of testimonials, from them that say that, the books that I was writing at the time were really good. It's hard for me to say because promoting yourself or saying good things about yourself is something we all find difficult because we don't want to seem arrogant or egotistical or what have you. But it just got to the point to where I kept writing stories and I was inspired by that. Well, this one was my absolute favorite. And I love the way that it ends up. It's a really good, feel-good story. And if I saw this book in the store, I would buy this book for a child. I would buy it for my grandparents, my parents, if they were alive, because it's just one of those kind of things that everybody would love to read. And I am so excited about it because it finally, I picked up all the copies and it's finally come to fruition. Now I need to get it into people's hands. And I'm so excited because, this is gift giving season. And I really believe that it is something that, purchased, given as a gift, keep for yourself. You're going to find a little special place in your heart where it touches you. And I am ecstatic. So I wanted to come on here today. I will be making the website live tomorrow so that you can go there and purchase. I'll be putting links on all my social media, but I am so darn excited about it. And it is it's a limited edition, simply because you never know how these things are going to go. But it is the first edition of Fix It Rod is going to be promoted with the hopes that people will find it heartwarming, touching, enjoyable. It'll take you a little bit down memory lane. And I am very excited to share that with you. So once I start promoting it, if it's something that you're not interested in, if it's something that you think someone else might be, I'm hoping that people will tell, people about this. This is a grassroots. This is Bev just living her 5-year-old dream. I have written since I was 5 years old. My first story was dictated to my teacher. She put it in the school newspaper, and it is something I have always found just complete peace, enjoyment in writing and reading and speaking. I have been through a really kind of, everybody has their thresholds, but the past couple of years have been mentally rough on me. I've been very down on myself. I lost a job that I thought I would retire at. I lost that job because of COVID. They revamped the way they were doing the department, and that made me really sad. And I had a very hard time getting over it. That sounds very minor to the horrible, horrific troubles that are out there in this world right now, but it was mine, and it was my heart and my hurt that I was having to try and work through. I know what it was. The main thing is something that I lost that I couldn't believe it. But my confidence went out the window because right away you keep thinking, well, what could I have done differently? What did I do to have this happen? And I brought all this on myself. Sure, COVID was an excuse to lay off all these people at the company I was at, but was there an opportunity to invite me back? I don't know, because once it happened, then I became, hurt, and I lost my confidence, and I lost my ability to really be myself. I am the type of person, I was talking to a friend, we were out to dinner the other night, and I was talking to her about, I'm a worker bee. I've always, even when my kids were little, I would slip in and out of part-time jobs, but primarily they were my focus. But once they were teenagers, I was excited to get back into, somewhat of the workforce. But I always have loved business. I've always loved selling. I've always loved being a part of an organization.